Okay. All right. We are here and live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another One Firm webinar. We are very, very excited. I have Anne Heathcock today. Anne, how are you?
Good, thank you. Excited to be here.
We are excited as well. We are going to be talking event ROI. We're going to give everybody just a couple of minutes to trickle in here, but just want to confirm you all are in the right place. We are on another One Firm webinar. We're going to get into this in a couple minutes, but yeah, Anne, where are you calling in from? Where are you coming in live from? And yeah, let us know.
I am in the lovely Frankfort, Illinois, which is a southwest suburb of Chicago. I'm based in the Chicago office for Winston Strawn.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to get into your background in a couple of minutes once we allow everybody to come in. How's the weather today on October 24th in the Chicago metropolitan area?
It is beautiful today. It's actually supposed to get up to almost 80 and it's sunny and it might be our last hurrah, our last of the beautiful post-summer days. So I'm excited.
That's what it's feeling like. We're going to get into event ROI today, but let's aggregate out of that or move out of that and tell us a little bit about events and sort of your what do you think about when you think about events, both in your personal life and your private life? What does the word conjure up for you?
Well, it definitely depends on what type of event it is. Certainly, work events come with certain responsibilities and expectations, regarding, if we're going to do an event, either, an internal event or we're sponsoring an external event or partnering with, a vendor or, a referral source, we want to make sure that we're picking the right types of events, there's obviously an opportunity cost for every event that you send your attorneys to, because if they're attending an event and preparing for an event and doing all of the things that we're going to talk about today, they can't be billing time. So we want to make sure that opportunity cost, that we've really thought that through and that we're making wise choices about how we're spending the firm's money and how we're spending our attorney's time.
Yeah, great. So we're going to get into all of that. And what about in your personal life, events? What comes up whenever I say events?
I'm definitely a self-proclaimed extrovert. I need to be around people. So, any chance I get to, pick up a glass of wine and talk to people, usually that makes me happy. Although I will admit, I fall into some of the same anxieties that other people do if I'm walking into a room of people that I don't necessarily know that well. We just had our alumni reception in Chicago last week, and that was like one of the best events I've been to in a long time because I knew everyone, and it was a lot of people who, again, I hadn't seen in a while, but like remembered very fondly, and so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Last question before we get into the substance and sort of formally kick off for 5 minutes in. What makes a great event? What do you think? I sort of heard what you said. Is it the relationships of the people in the room? Is it the location? Is it sort of just, the time and the place? Is it a little bit of everything, like a good recipe?
Yeah, it comes down to everything, and I guess I work closely with our event planners, and some of it is the vibe, I think, so that you've picked a place that is, that matches with your audience, that there's something unique or fun or entertaining about where you are, so that in addition to just, the ability to obviously have good conversations, which is very important, but that you have a hook that, people want to come to your event because there's a reason that they're going to experience something new or fun. And so, yeah, I would say it's kind of the vibe. I like events that have good energy so that, people are happy to be there. There's lots of good conversation, good food, good drinks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think a good hook is really important for allowing people to come in with the right energy, right? To match it. I think so many events are so large and you don't know how to relate, and it tends to be like, let's say a wedding or a birthday party. You sort of know how to show up, right? You know the way that you're going to show up with people, and I think that makes it. All right, well, let's go ahead and kick off, everybody. Welcome to another One Firm webinar. I am here with my distinguished guest today, Anne Heathcock, and we're going to get into your bio, but today we are going to be talking about, as you can sort of pick up, conference ROI, making the most of legal events. So, as I said, I'm here with Anne Heathcock, and for those of you who don't know you, can you give us a little bit about your background and your bio and why you love events and are passionate about this topic today?
Sure. So I am the managing director of marketing and business development at Winston Strawn, and I have actually been with the firm since 1994. So I am just shy of 30 years with the firm. So I have had a great opportunity over the years to see how events have evolved and become how legal marketing in general has become more sophisticated. And I feel very blessed in my career at Winston that I have been able to do everything across the entire spectrum of legal marketing, just having been with the firm so long. So I've done all kinds of event planning. I still plan the firm's internal partner conference, which is, again, a different type of networking, but definitely networking. And we're constantly looking at how we're doing that event to make sure that the partners are, again, getting the most out of the time that they are spending. But I work with our team, both our BD team as well as our industry teams, to make sure that we are, putting the firm in front of the right people at the right conferences, that we're making good decisions about whether we're sponsoring or just attending, if we're having ancillary events at the conferences, and sort of making sure overall I manage the business development budget. So I'm always kind of keeping an eye on how we're spending our money and making sure that, again, we're making wise choices.
Absolutely. So I am very excited to get into the ROI side. I think it's there's so much in there that goes into it, from the selection to how you show up to the post sort of follow up. So really excited. So let's go through some of our topics for today. So we're going to go through 3 topics, but I just want to call out for the audience here. We'd love to have your questions, and Emma, who is our event manager here at Nexl, is on the call, and she will be fielding some questions. So please, if at any point you have some questions and topics that you want us and Anne to answer, please go ahead and let us know. So why don't we kick off maybe with the first topic, Anne? Prepping your team, coaching attorneys for maximum ROI. And whenever I think about where we're at from the perspective of timing, this is really entering an event. You've selected the event, you've determined, but it's really time for sort of like the pre and the prep. Where do you see prepping in terms of the importance for event ROI and sort of conference ROI in general? Where can we go with this topic?
Not surprisingly, I'm going to say it's absolutely essential. if if you skip the prepping step, your chances to successfully make use of your time, the time that you're investing in the event itself, you might get lucky and you might just happen to stumble into a really great conversation. I wouldn't say that it never happens, but you're making it much harder on yourself if you don't do the prep work in advance. So we try very hard to get our attorneys to at least a few days out from the event, or I would prefer that they do it before the day of, but at the very least, we want them to, or we advise, that, again, if there is an invitation or an attendee list that is available to review, to take a look at that, to do some research, to look at the list and determine, who is it that you think that you would like to connect with at this event. Is it existing clients? Is it a target? Is it a referral source? And then to kind of have a thought or a plan about, how you want to use your time. So we suggest that you go into the event and you've kind of have your goals for the event. So, you want to meet 2 new people, or, catch up with someone that you haven't seen in a while, or, as most law firm people understand, sometimes we send people to conferences because our clients are going to be there and we don't want other law firms just poaching them away. So sometimes it's a you want to be in front of your client so that other people aren't taking their time and possibly luring them away. So I would definitely say, the things that, people need to do to get ready, and look at that attendee list, make a plan about who you want to meet, and then spend a little time trying to get prepared for those conversations. So, do a Google search or a LinkedIn search on the company. Try to figure out what's been going on, or if there's anything interesting. Again, if you're looking particularly at a particular person that you want to connect with, who you see is on the attendee list, send them an email and say, hey, I saw your name on the attendee list, looking forward to catching up with you. I'll be looking for you. So sort of, grease the wheels a little bit so that, the person knows that you're going to be there and will be looking to have a conversation. Think about what you might want to talk about with them. I mean, if there's something in particular that you want to broach, or if you just want to catch up, think about if there's, something interesting that you've done recently. We talk about having a elevator speech that's appropriate for, for the event. Now, that's obviously, you're not going to give your elevator speech to a client or someone who already knows you, but, prepping your market message or elevator speech, whatever you want to call it, so that it is appropriate for this event. So if you need to tweak it, figure out exactly what you want to say, and then practice it a few times so that it comes out naturally and doesn't feel stilted. And I know I just said an awful lot in a row, so I will let you speak now.
So I map all of that, and I think prep is totally essential. Let me ask a little bit. Maybe we can dive a little bit into the elevator sentence, and can you say a little bit more about what's the point with sort of the elevator sentence? Are we trying to get across? Is it something particular? Are you personalizing it for the particular person that you're trying to reach out, or is it really you're sort of aligning yourself to what? Let's say in the case of Winston and Strawn, what the firm has done as of recently, and sort of some of the message. Yeah, how do you think about the proverbial pitch?
I think it needs to be more personal to the individual. I mean, I think that obviously whoever it is needs to have an understanding of what the firm offers, certainly, but you're having a one-on-one conversation, and so it really should be more about what is of interest to that particular person, or to someone in that industry, or if it's particular to a PE event, and so that you're talking to people who are in the PE space, just understanding how they work so that your sort of examples of what you do are relevant to them. I mean, bringing in what the firm does, I think is always part of that conversation if it is natural. But I think it really is, again, the first contact is an individual to an individual. And so it needs to be more personal to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go into the coaching part specifically for attorneys. Can you sort of describe a little bit what that environment is like? on the business development side and the marketing side, just that interface with clients, sorry, with your clients, aka the attorneys. What's sort of the range? Is there one to many type coaching where sometimes there's scenarios? I'm just trying to get a understanding of how coaching. I've never been in a coaching environment specifically for events, so yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
So it happens in a number of different ways. I mean, we have a networking checklist that, we try to send out a few days in advance of the event to sort of, again, remind people, like, here are things that you should be thinking about as you're getting ready to attend a particular event. We also actually have a wonderful coach. We have a coaching in-house coaching service that works with a number of our attorneys and partners at the firm, on an ongoing basis. So I work frequently with her to do training sessions across the firm. I had the opportunity to do a networking presentation to our London and Paris women. We had a women's event in Paris, which, let me tell you, it's not a real hardship to have to go to Paris to do a networking event. So yeah.
Pretty good one there. Yeah.
So we do both. I mean, we'll work,
Yeah.
directly with, younger partners or younger attorneys. If they, come to us and need some tips, we kind of proactively send out the checklist. We offer research services to, again, if they want to know what we're doing for specific clients, or they want to understand who we know at specific clients. So if you get an attendee list and they don't actually tell you who's coming, but they tell you the companies they're going to be there, then it, gives us an opportunity to use Nexl, which is our CRM, to, kind of take a look and see, like, well, who do we know there, and who are the people that are most or are interacting the most with people at that company. So it, helps give you a base of conversation. Like, you can basically say, oh, I saw we're doing, well, I don't want to say we're doing M&A work, because sometimes that's not supposed to be public, but I see we're doing a securities offering for you. And, I also see that, your GC is relatively new, and tell me about, what changes you're seeing in your legal department based on your new GC. So it just helps you figure out sort of what are the conversation points that you want to hit. And you also don't want it to be entirely work related. You want to also have some personal interest, or some questions. I think it is good to have a few questions in your back pocket about either something that you've done recently, like for example, before I went to Paris, which I actually combined with a little vacation on the other side of it, I would ask people, have you been to France? Well, have you been to Paris? What did you like to do? What were your highlights? So it was an opportunity to, again, ask people about things that theoretically they would be happy to talk about. So
Yes. Let me ask you about, just still on this coaching, in particular about, it's a direct question about how you in a coaching capacity, how you make decisions around where to place your coaching priorities. I think everybody who's been in the industry knows that, you can't service all of your lawyer clients similarly. Can you talk a little bit about how the business development and marketing and even law firm, are you trying to meet, are you trying to double down on, let's say, I don't like to use the term rainmaker, but you're most outgoing, you're most proactive, those who have a natural sort of affliction toward this, because what I'm driving at is there tends to be an ROI between different people, right? And how they sort of show up. And of course, that's okay. I mean, it's everybody's bag, but you see the sort of trump of the question? Are you putting more coaching resources on those that have a natural predilection to this, or are you trying to raise the baseline of how things are going so that, everybody is sort of delivering ROI back? Because events are expensive, they're a lot of work, they're time consuming, and like you said, I think coaching is kind of that last mile, right? If a very successful person can really close the loop and bring, let's use marketing and sales language, really bring in opportunities and bring back true new client opportunities. I think you get the trump of the question. Yeah.
I do. And I guess I would say both. So we're trying to cast a wide net, and, we do some sort of networking training, at various levels. So we do training, like pretty extensive training programs for obviously our first years. Then we've got our third years or 6 years. And then when they make partner, we do another set. We do it's the new partner orientation that we do every year. And so we always try to make sure that we're hitting it, it obviously they have different skill levels and different responsibilities for what they're doing at different levels. So we try to tailor the communications about how to do it based on the level. But then also, yes, you're never going to be able to make someone who is completely introverted and hates to be in a crowd to be the world's best networker. It's just you're asking them to change too much. So some of it is you coach the people who are receptive to being coached. So if someone doesn't think that they need help or that they can benefit from the coaching, they're pretty much going to ignore you. So some of it is us identifying, again, people who have the right skill sets, or people, who are on the bubble, who, are on the verge of sort of breaking through, and giving them that helping hand. And then sometimes, again, it's we're identifying particular groups. So we've got a big coaching program right now that we're doing for our corporate women partners. And there was a presentation yesterday that was called Mastering the Ask. And that was actually through was through our again our coaching service. But we're also, we also do obviously particular BD coaching for our diverse attorneys, because we want to make sure that that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. And, but again, if you're interested, anybody who comes to me and says, "Hey, I'd like to do a better job at networking," I am happy to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. The curriculum will be specific to you. All you got to do is ask, right? Raise your hand. That's I want to get to embracing networking because it's so fun. We're like pre the event, then we're at the event, and then we're going to talk about sort of post the event. But really quickly, you said something super interesting that I really just want to check in on. And you brought up this idea of it goes into particular like motions. I don't know what that. I'm pointing at mastering the ask, and I'm assuming that there's different parts of this, because there's even parts like staying in contact between the events, and I'm sure you've broken this all up just for us on the outside looking at. Mastering the ask, that seems like you're pointing at that everybody could get better at this. Do you just want to sort of say, are there particular skill sets that people tend to, whenever we're talking about coaching attorneys to maximize ROI, is the ask really it? Everybody knows what we're talking about here. Asking the ask is difficult, and at that point in time and pulling that across. So I was wondering if you could get into that coaching specificity on these sorts of particular skills, motions, whatever you want to call it.
Again, there's little asks that build up to the big ask. Anyone who walked up to someone at a cocktail party and said, "Give me your business," is probably not going to get it. That's a little too aggressive. but again, it's understanding or being comfortable in having, having a good conversation with someone and making the follow-up ask. So saying, this was a great conversation. I would like to continue it. Are you open to, a Teams meeting if you're in the same location, going out to coffee, going to lunch? Can I invite you to, our next cocktail party, or we're going to, are you going to be at the next conference that's maybe in 2 months? I'd love to reconnect with them there. So instead of just saying it was great to meet you and walking away, making that ask to continue the relationship, to make it for the next thing. And I don't know that people automatically do that. They have to be taught to think through that. Okay, what do you want to happen next? And again, sometimes it's, I just want to continue this conversation. Sometimes it's, I want to introduce you to someone that I think will help you, or I want you to introduce me to someone where I think that we can help each other. So, I think the small asks work up to, it's, we tell our people, and again, I've got, I have it in a slide somewhere, but that, it takes 9 to 13 interactions for a client. Yes, for a client, for basically to convert someone who's a target into a client. And what really, and I say this often to our people, I said, what really has to happen is you have to be top of mind when the person that you're trying to connect with has a problem that you can solve. And those two things have to happen at the same time. And the only way that they're going to happen at the same time is if you keep on, again, getting in front of them, showing that you're a problem solver. And this is another thing that we type. You don't have to immediately solve a legal problem for them. Sometimes you can solve a different kind of problem for them to build that relationship. So sometimes it's, they're looking to get their child into a particular school, and you've got some insight, or you just went through it and you've got some tips. Or they're, they're going to Paris and they're looking for like the perfect, romantic evening, or they want a list of recommendations for, restaurants to go to. So sometimes it's just proving to someone, or making them think about you as being a problem solver, and that advances the relationship and starts to build trust.
Yeah. Well, very well said. Totally. I want to call out to the audience here. Anne just sort of broke down the different, I guess, sequences along the touches that really sort of start to move people through, let's use again marketing and business development, through a client journey specifically, and events. Nobody will argue this point. Events and one-to-one is some of the most impactful conversations. So really nailing it in that 9-point sequence here. But there's an art, and making sure that that something comes out of it. There's an art there that really maximizes those sorts of touches. So I want to ask the audience, is there any particular coaching topics that you try to go deep on, that you found a lot of ROI with your attorneys? Is it the ask? Is it the learning how to be a problem solver outside of a legal problem? Because come on, let's be honest. There's very few times that you're gonna run on to somebody random, let's say a net new prospect, and they're ready to talk about a legal problem at that event. No, it's just probabilities are low. But there's always a problem that, if you're in a problem solution sort of orienting mind, can be a very worthwhile touch. So I love that vignette here, and I want to ask the audience whether or not they have any topics. Put it in the chat. Let us know. All right, so let's move to topic number 2, embracing networking. We're leaving prepping, so we're before we've done the coaching, we've built our list, we have an objective, we sort of have a game plan. We've gotten some coaching with Anne about the ask, and Anne's team about different substantive parts. We get to the event, and it's showtime, right? We're walking up on stage. It can be anxiety ridden, especially for the everybody except for the least introverted person, and we had this conversation outside. There's a handful of small people who literally love to walk into a room where they know anybody. For the vast majority, even if you have a plan, and of course, having a plan always, I think, reduces the anxiety, even for the most, or even if you don't get anxiety, having a plan will make sure that you're focused, rather than like just getting lost in the weeds. What do you have to say about the idea of networking and anxiety and building connections in this event and showing up in the right way to sort of be amenable to this?
Well, I think again, one, you have to know yourself and know, how willing you are to, push the limits of your own comfort. But I think you can make, again, good choices about, you can decide when you want to show up to the event. So say it's a 2-hour event. If you show up early and you don't know a lot of people, you actually have a better opportunity to interact with people that you don't know, because they might just be standing there also holding a drink, and it's a perfect opportunity to go up and introduce yourself, because you're not interrupting. They're not doing anything, and they're probably going to be grateful to, again, have someone make an overture to them. Now, you probably have no idea whether or not it's an actual contact that you want to meet, but again, it does help when the room is not super crowded. Also, if you're trying to pick out certain people, and if you've done your prep work and you've basically emailed a few people ahead of time and said, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you. What time are you getting there? You can kind of have an idea of like, okay, so-and-so was going to be there early, or so-and-so was going to be there late. So I kind of know how to use my time. The other thing that, we have been telling people is to take advantage of the host or the event organizer and ask, again, if there are people who you're looking to meet or to connect with, ask if they've checked in. If there are, types of people, again, if you're going to a networking event and you're not expecting to know a lot of people, ask the organizer to help you. Tell them, these are the kinds of people that I'd like to meet. Can you make some suggestions? Or I'd really like to meet somebody from this company. Do you know someone there? Could you make an introduction for me? Because the hosts, the organizers, they want it to be a successful event. They want, most of the time, they want you to come back next year. They want you to sponsor again. And so they're going to be willing to go out of their way to help make it valuable for you if you ask them. So really don't feel bad about doing that. I think that is something that a lot of people don't think about. And then also just, go over by the name tags. Everyone has to come in to get their name tags. It's a good place to kind of hang out and see who shows up. Or the bar. Hanging out by the bar is also, these are the gathering places. Now it can get a little crowded. So once you've, figured out who you want to approach, then maybe move away from the bar or the name tag table. But the other thing that we talked to our attorneys about is the option of having a wingman or a wing woman, wingman, wing person, whatever you want to call it. And I think that is definitely helps with the anxiety level for a lot of people if they have someone else that they feel that they can rely on. But we also make sure we tell them, don't let that person be a crutch for you. So the worst of all possible scenarios is you come with a buddy and the two of you stand in a corner and that you might as well not have gone at all. So really, again, picking a good buddy to go with, and then again, understanding what they offer and having them understand what you offer, so you can talk them up and they can talk you up. And they can, again, throw the conversation in certain ways. So again, if you have sort of a strategy before you go in, like, Ben, what are a couple of things that you've been doing lately that, would be interesting, so that I could basically be like, hey, so-and-so, Ben's planning a trip to Paris. Have you been to Paris recently? Or, Ben just did this awesome transaction. Is your company looking at doing something like that? So it gives you the opportunity, or Ben is the most amazing person at, talking about generative AI. He just like knows everything. So it really gives you an opportunity to play up each other, and it's so much more comfortable saying nice things about someone else than it is saying nice things about yourself. So it can work to your benefit if you're, again, strategic about who you bring, and that one person doesn't sort of get all the benefits and the other person is just the sidekick.
Love it, love it. The buddy system, when two things come together, 1 + 1 can't really equal 3. So much back and forth. I want to go back because I thought your point when we were prepping for this webinar, your point about arriving early was really, really interesting. And I thought that it shows a lot of self-awareness. What sort of person am I? Am I the person who's going to break through sort of little circles once they've already, because everybody knows that that's what ends up happening, right? It's like at some point in time, and everybody starts to group together, and it just becomes high school in some strange way, right? But if you're early to the party, then this is kind of like this is your ability to almost play host and make sure that everybody's kind of welcoming before the vibe and the inevitable sociability of human beings as everybody sort of starts to create groups. I thought that was so smart, and it shows a high level degree of self-awareness for doing that. I want to talk about building connections, specifically with people that you just randomly meet, and I think that there is this there's this mindset. I'll go a little out there for a second, but there's this idea that meeting somebody is always worth it because you just never know how they can be sort of like connected. And of course, if you have a plan, you're going in there and you're making sure I have my referral partners, I have my clients, I have my prospects, and then there's that other group, right? There's those people that I'm just going to run into because I'm going to be pulled into these conversations or introduced for this person. Tell me a little bit about how you think about connections. Is the idea to always just leave something with something impressionable, let them know I'm an attorney, this is my practice group, I work at Winston Strawn, and here's sort of one interesting thing about me, or are you always trying to where do you get the most out of that connection? Because there's going to be so many more people that you don't know and that you just that maybe you don't have a direct target into relative to the people that maybe you're trying to meet.
Well, one of the tips that we tell people is ask who they are first. Because it gives you the opportunity, again, if you're, you just say your name, but if you immediately kind of turn it over to them and start asking some questions to try to understand, what they do, who they are, how they fit in at the event, it helps you understand what to actually say back. So how to get into relationship, or how to build that conversation with them if you understand a little bit about what they're trying to do. And, most people, not all people, but most people, again, if you appear to be interested in them, they like that. And so asking questions generally, interested questions, and again, if it's in an authentic way, people will respond well to that. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a balance between, again, if you've planned your time and you know that you have an hour that you're willing to spend at the event because everyone has other commitments, or you've got a work call, or you need to get home for a kids event or whatever. You want to sort of make sure that you don't end up in an endless conversation that isn't really going anywhere. And so you also have to have kind of an exit strategy. So a way to, again, move the conversation, to a close. So it's, again, a lot of times you can say, hey, it was wonderful to meet you. And, I would love to introduce you to my colleague over here. Can I do that? Cause then it's a handoff. Or just simply like, I'd love to continue the conversation, but, can I get your business card? So you leave with that you're not just leaving the conversation cold. You're basically implying this was, valuable for me and I would like to continue it. Whether or not you do that is a different thing. We'll talk a little bit more of that on what to do after. But yeah, really sort of having having an exit strategy, or having sort of an understanding, like I can really only spend 15, if I want to interact with 4 people, I need to keep my interactions to 12 to 15 minutes. And how am I going to, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But yeah, introducing them to someone else is always a good strategy.
We all love I love the strategy, and I'm laughing because it tends to be that if I'm with Phil, the CEO of Nexl, it tends to be I'm the person who gets the introduced offer to. Yeah, right, exactly. So it's just this one triggers me a little bit more than I'm totally fine, Phil. If you're listening to this, it's totally fine, and we're gonna be with each other in Paris. So I'm just I'm future setting to where we're gonna be, but so let's I want to move. Obviously, we've taken a good chunk of your time, and we're really appreciative of all the insights that you get. And let's go into the post, and let's set up where we're at. We've come back into the room where, if we're a very introverted person, we're exhausted, but somehow we've gone back our energy through reading or gardening. There are strategies that really, I truly believe, the fortune is in the follow-up and then the post-event sort of like strategy. And so let's talk about post-event strategy. Let's talk about what's important there. There are so many components here. There is, just to rattle off a few, but you're gonna set me straight here. There's the business card to CRM dynamic. There's the follow-up email dynamic. There's the true opportunity. Let's really, there's something here really. So this is getting into the pipeline. And then there's I met a bunch of people. I don't know whether or not there's anything there, but it's good to sort of reach out. Wow. The amount of workload post event cannot be underappreciated, but how you move. And then there's unfortunate, but there's this time element, right? Which is how much do you have to do in some short period of time to keep this going? Yeah, walk us through sort of the post event and all of the myriad of things that you kind of have to do there. And yeah, wow, how do we do it all?
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to make it sound too overwhelming. But I mean, I think the key thing is to literally, as soon as you leave the event, just like on the train or in your car before you take off, get out your phone and jot down some notes. Like, who are the people I met? What if there was something in particular that I talked to them about that was interesting, or where I feel like, again, there's a natural way for me to follow up. So again, I'm back to Paris because I'm all about Paris these days. So, we had this conversation about, you going to Paris. So as a follow-up, I did get your business card, or I'm going to reach out to you on LinkedIn. I have a suggestion on, here's the tour guide that we used to, take a tour of the Musée d'Orsay, and she was amazing and I highly recommend her. So I'm offering something of value because I know that you're going to Paris. Or, you needed, a recommendation for a batting coach for your son, or whatever it is. Like something in the conversation that you're like, okay, this is something that I can follow up on, that again, I can sort of start building that thought that I'm a problem solver. Or, I want to send this. I recently wrote an article on generative AI, or I wrote an article on, antitrust trends related to private equity. And we talked about it briefly. I'd like to send that to the person. I mean, and again, you can kind of make that part of the follow-up. hey, I'd like to send you this article. Is that okay? And because once you have the permission, then there's sort of a little bit of an obligation. And we're not above trading on obligations. But again, doing those notes like as soon as you leave so that you don't miss anything. Again, it also offers you an opportunity, again, if you're talking to people that you do actually know really well, like to make a note like, oh, his daughter is, trying to get recruited to a D1 school for soccer. And so like you make a note because the next time that you are interacting with that person, you want to remember to follow up on that. Because again, it shows that investment in the relationship. So make your notes. Then when you get home or the next day, actually like take those notes, get them into the CRM, get them onto your to-do list, onto your business plan, set a reminder of when you're going to do it. I mean, you should do it within the first 2 weeks. And again, the other thing is, if you really felt that this was a valuable contact and it is somewhere where you want to invest your time, don't get discouraged if you don't get a response right away. So if you don't get a response in the first 2 weeks, set yourself a tickler so you can follow up again in another week or two after that, another couple weeks, because it's very possible. I mean, our inboxes are all insane, and it's very possible somebody like either saw something and thought, oh, I should go back to that, and just never got to it. So I don't assume like somebody doesn't want to interact with you just because they missed a single email. Again, if you saw someone, or again, if you met someone, you didn't get a business card, or even if you did get a business card and you're not already connected on LinkedIn, ask to connect on LinkedIn within a few days, because otherwise they may not remember. And then actually send a message. So instead of just doing the very basic minimum with LinkedIn, send a little note that says, hey, it was great to meet you at blah, blah, blah. Are you going to this? Or, we're doing this program coming up in a few months. Would you like to be invited to it? So again, try to build that next step in the process, or at least get permission to continue reaching out. Another thing that we talk about too is, again, take advantage of, if you took the time to go to the event, post about it on social media. So post about, add a picture, or, say that you went to the event and here were the 3 takeaways, from the event, or that you met this wonderful person, or you had this great conversation, or that whatever it was, but post about it, because the organization will likely, if they see it, they'll repost and it'll get to a broader audience. But it also, again, if someone is in you, again, if you start to add people to your LinkedIn, posting, again, keeps you top of mind, and that's what you want to be. And then the other thing that we tell people is basically make some notes about the event itself. Was it a productive event? Would you go next year? And then take a minute or two and ask yourself a question. What did I do well? What would I do different next time? So it's just the normal sort of debrief after everything.
Yeah. Wow. Very, very cool. I just want to say, take photos of you at events and post it on LinkedIn. I mean, this is like algorithm gold, like, I mean, people love people, and people love people at events on LinkedIn almost as much as people changing jobs on LinkedIn. We're being laughy, but hopefully everybody, that there is a deep kernel of truth in there. So, I mean, I love that you called that out. I want to sort of, if I could, attach a couple things, your shout out and your call out about a personalized message in the LinkedIn connection that references something that you spoke about, at the event whenever you connected. It's such a small thing, but so impactful, because the reality is it shows that you were listening, you were actively listening, and that you took the time to do the last mile. And in a world where so many things are automated and follow-ups, and these sorts of things really sort of cut through the noise and bring it back. And I just think it's sort of vitally crucial, but I want to attach it to the previous point, which is networking. are you actively listening whenever you're networking with somebody, such that you're thinking about, how is the post follow-up email going to do? Am I getting something out of this that shows that I care, that I'm actively listening? Then I just, I do you want to say more about that, about like the small things? I guess there's this thread that I feel has come out in this conversation, which is the small things pre, during, and even post, and how those things are very impactful. I don't know if you have a quick reflection on that, and then we're going to go to some questions and see if there's anybody. But yeah, does that resonate with you?
Definitely, definitely. I really do. I totally agree with you. I think when you reference back to something that was in the conversation, you really show that investment or that engagement in trying to move the relationship to the next stage. Um, and so anytime that you can do that, I think, again, just taking those extra few minutes, or, we talk about if you talked about cooking, or you talked about, something, just like offering something, not extravagant, but, sending a recipe, sending a recommendation, offering to introduce them to somebody. They're fairly easy things to do, but they really do have a big impact. Or I mean, another thing is, so, say you met someone and they actually introduced you to someone else, and that someone else was actually like, this was a great contact. Thank them for doing that. We don't always express gratitude for something. And I think people really appreciate that. I think they think well of you and are more likely, again, to be open to the idea of extending the relationship.
Yeah. I one last thought, and then we'll go to questions for everybody. But you called out that stat, which all of us in marketing and business development and go to market and all of it know, which is 9 to 12 touches to really take somebody on this sort of journey. I want to attach that to what we just said about impactful sort of micro moments. Yes, it tends to take a couple number of touches to get people, but not all touches are created equal, right? And especially where you're at, it can be that the difference between you getting the piece of work, or really you establishing some sort of fundamental connection, and really solidifying the relationship versus another counsel, or just, I don't want to make it so us versus them, but it's the small things along that sort of journey that really create an experience. And we all talk about client experience and customer experience, and I think the word experience is important because it's not just a mechanical series of touches. Yes, you have to do the touches. Yes, you have to have 9, 12 touches across marketing, business development, client teams, client referrals. They have to go on this sort of journey, but those touches can be a little bit more impactful, or a little less example, and they can be more of an experience, right? They can be more of a personalized experience on this. I know we're very high up in the clouds right now, but I'm sure everybody on this call can resonate with that. And just put yourself in somebody else's shoe. Everybody knows the difference between a process versus an experience. And I guess I'm trying to use those two words in a nuanced way, but yeah. Anything there? Does that also resonate in this like sort of impactful touches, and not all touches are exactly the same?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think that, yeah, again, it's authenticity. It's being authentic. It's being a real person interacting with another real person. And you can't fake that. People.
Totally. And the human being, for whatever it's worth, we're very sensitive, especially now. I would say we're very sensitive to authenticity these days. We know, So I've so enjoyed this conversation. I think we've gone through the science of it. We've sort of described the mechanism. There is a machine that we're sort of building that maximizes ROI. but my goodness, is there an art to this, and there is a nuance to this that really sort of drives that machine with some sort of like nuance. And that's what I took away from this. There are motions and sequences, but then within each sort of touch point, there are ways to sort of show up. Any takeaways for you before we go to some questions, Anne?
The only other thing that, again, that I would say to as a part of a coaching moment is practice makes perfect. Honestly, the more you do something, the less anxiety you'll have, the less, again, once you kind of get into the process and you sort of spend the time and you sort of get to know what works for you and what doesn't, it becomes easier. So just keep doing it, keep making the effort, keep doing the before, the during, and the after, and you will reap results.
Okay, beautiful. Well, Anne, thank you so much for sitting down here. I love the model. I love the sequences. I love just thinking about Paris, and where I'm going to be. I love having to field all of these conversations that Phil's going to throw over my way. It's at the end of the day, it's still great to be in a room with people, and I know we missed that a lot during COVID. To go back, remember that time? Remember that whole thing? And now we're here, and at the end of the day, impact really can be driven from one-to-one conversations. It's just that will never change. Even if we can automate everything in the world and use Gen AI to create as much content as possible, I think the human touch will still be kind of the last bastion. So, Anne, I totally appreciate you sort of sitting down and walking us through. Yes, awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much. This was another One Firm webinar. We will be sending this. If you had to drop out, you wouldn't know that, but we will have this on demand for everybody. And if you like it, like, share, all of that kind of stuff, please. Thank you so much so that we know what kind of content you all like. And thank you so very much to Anne Heathcock for sitting down with me today.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.